Hey guys, good morning. It is Thursday, March the 7th. It's been a couple of weeks, maybe 3 weeks, since I posted my original video on my new insulin pump, which is a Medtronic 670G. And I'll show that to you again in a few minutes. In this video, I wanted to show you the results of my first week on manual mode. And then I wanted to show you the results of my first week on auto mode, because I know there's a lot of videos out there about people that struggle with auto mode, but my results have been actually quite good, quite amazing and impressive, to be honest with you. So I wanted to share that with you. And I'm going to show you some reports that you can get from the MiniMed CareLink system, which is kind of a web-based system that you upload the data to. Someday maybe I'll make a video on how you actually do that uploading, because it's fairly straightforward, but if you've never done it before, it can be a little confusing. But long story short, you can extract all of the information from your pump and upload it using your computer to their website, and then you can pick from a number of standard reports, and you can print those reports off, and your endocrinologist can look at them, your diabetic nurse can look at them, you can look at them yourself. And if you get to the point where you're good enough understanding your pump settings, you can even use those reports to kind of fine-tune and tweak your different settings within your pump. I would caution you against doing that unless you really know exactly what you're doing. You really should have your diabetic nurse or your endocrinologist guide you on changing those settings, because it's pretty important that they be right. Anyway, I'm going to turn the camera around here and show you some of these reports, so just stand by. Let me get this over my neck so you don't have that in the way. So, this report here is my first week on manual mode. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 days. You know it's on manual mode because of this solid black bar at the top. The other important thing to notice here is just how spiky I was in manual mode. Each of these spikes is kind of a high sugar, as you can see, and there's a number of them all throughout. Most of them happen usually around mealtime. The other thing you'll notice is each of these little shaded vertical bars is a time when the pump went into auto suspend mode, when I was going low. And prior to wearing, the CGM consistently, I really didn't know I was going that low that often. So the pump was automatically suspending. But anyway, long story short, manual mode was kind of full of spikes. And I wasn't terribly well under control. If you actually look at another report that shows you breakfast, lunch, and then dinner, you can see that, dinner and overnight, see this average bar, I'm really rock solid, good within my zone. In the lunchtime, again, I'm really good, but it was breakfast time that I was having some trouble. So, and part of what we think was causing that was my carb ratio is set to 5, as opposed to 3.4 and 3.4 for the afternoon and the evening. So one of the things that my endocrinologist and I did was we lowered my carb ratio from 5 down to 4.5. What that means is that I'll get 1 unit of insulin for every 4.5 carbs instead of every 5 carbs. So effectively what that does is it gives me a bit more insulin. Oops, sorry, that's my pump. What's it complaining about here? Just a minute. Alert on high. Yeah, this is what the pump actually looks like on auto mode while I'm here. You can see that right up here, that's the battery. So I've got about 3/4 of the battery. This is my insulin reservoir level. I'm right down to red critical. But one of the things that I've learned is just leave it be, let it do that. Eventually that'll turn solid red when it's really, really low. This just means I've got some sounds on. This little icon is the transmitter. The fact that it's, got green circles around it says that it's working. And all is well. This little icon with the little drop of blood in it, it's got a green circle. That means that I'm good, I'm calibrated. I don't need to calibrate for a good long time. This, of course, is the date. This little blue shield comes up to tell you that I'm in auto mode. If that little blue shield ever goes gray, it means that I need to do calibration, and I'll get a message saying that I do need the calibration. This tells me that I got 7.4 units currently active. This little icon means it locks, so if I hit that again, it'll tell me to hit this to unlock it. And then there's that. There's the home screen. The thing I really like is this button, which shows me the graph. Now, these pink dots along here, those are all the microboluses that the pump is automatically doing. You can see that I ate breakfast right there. That's what that little yellow icon means. And I was pretty good, but now my sugar's climbing because I probably ate a bit too much breakfast. I had some sugary cereal, which probably wasn't all that good for me. But then you can hit the up button and it makes the graph a little longer. So here's the last 24 hours. That little empty gap right there is because I didn't calibrate quite quick enough to keep it continuous, but normally it's continuous. Now you can see as long as the graph is in this green zone, then I'm good. If it's higher than the green zone, I'm a little high. If it gets down low to the bottom of this green zone, then it means I'm a little too low. But the pump is really smart on auto mode. It'll automatically crank my little microboluses up or down depending on whether I need more or less. So right now it's probably trying to give me some more. And the way you can do that is if you hit this button, it'll slide over and it'll show you. See that little M? That means microbolus. It gave me 0.225 units at 8:38. And then if you go backwards in time, it gave me another 0.225 at 8:33. So every 5 minutes when it's getting a report from the CGM, it'll make a decision about whether to give me a microbolus or not and how much microbolus to give me. And the longer that you wear the pump and the longer that you stay in auto mode, the more it will learn your body. So anyway, back to this. I went and adjusted that carb ratio from 5 down to 4.5. But even before I did that, this is the first week on auto mode. Now you kind of have to forget this first day because I was kind of half in manual, half in auto. And all of this crappy stuff going on here was the pump was kind of trying to figure me out and get used to me. And then you can see the rest of the days. I had a spike here at breakfast, a spike there at breakfast, a spike there at breakfast, spike there at breakfast, and a spike there at breakfast. So these breakfast spikes should be eased up a bit by changing that ratio. But the more important thing I want you to see is look at the average here. Look how flat it is except for the spikes. Okay? Look how flat it normally is except for the spikes. And then to further drive that point home, look at this summary. This is kind of the summary report you get off the website. Look at this. Except for this morning rise, which we're going to try to fix. Look how flat and level I am all through the night, through the afternoon, through the early evening. Look at that. That is the best control I've ever had. And this is because of auto mode. Look at this other thing here. I don't know whether you can see it or not, but the estimated A1C is 6.6. Prior to getting into this new pump with auto mode, my A1C was running over 8. And it's been steadily climbing for the past 3 or 4 years. So this is going to give me much better control. This is another good statistic. That says 78% of the time I'm in control. I'm within my range. So that is an amazing statistic. Anyway, guys, that is the results of my first week on auto mode. If you compare the graphs between manual, here's manual. Remember all the spikiness in manual? Here's auto. Other than the mornings, look how flat it is. And I'm hoping to smooth out those mornings by changing that carb ratio. So, long story short, the other thing I've done is I went and ordered myself a black silicone case just to kind of protect the pump because the thing is worth $7,200 Canadian. The other thing I like about the silicone case is it covers up the battery compartment. Right underneath here is where you unscrew the little battery top. And without this case on it, trust me, I know myself, that thing's going to get full of dirt and debris and grime. The only other thing I want to try to do is get a little plastic sheet to cover this. You know, you can buy those plastic things to put on cell phones. I'd like to get one and cut it to size because, you know, my health plan only covers a new pump every 8 years. So I'm going to have to keep this thing for 8 years. And after 8 years, this is going to get scratched. So I want to keep that from getting scratched. This little belt clip isn't quite as good as my previous pump's belt clip, because the previous pump's belt clip had a little spring up here. So when you were wearing this on your belt, kind of on the side of your belt, you could actually kind of flip it up to have a look at the screen. But this one here, you physically have to take the pump off, and then you have to look at it. But overall, it's a really nice pump. I really like having the blue shield. Tells me what my sugar is. It's actually running a little high, so I may need to do a correction. I like the fact that it's locked, so you don't have to worry about if you're in the truck and you bump your pump up against your seatbelt holder or whatever, and some of these buttons get pushed. In order to unlock it, you have to push the center button, and then you have to push the right button. It tells you which one to hit. In this case, it's the lower button. So unless you do that, you're not going to unlock it. And even then, to do any functions within here, you also have to hit several buttons. Like if you wanted to take a bolus, you'd have to select that. Then you have to click on it. Then you have to click what your blood sugar is. You know, then you enter your blood sugar. And then you come down here, and then you click, you have to accept it. And you click how many carbs you're eating. Then you enter your carbs. Anyway, I'm going to back all of that because I don't want to give myself anything. But my point is, you have to hit a number. Yeah, I know, there's some other kind of error message. You have to hit a number of buttons before it'll actually deliver a bonus. So anyway, overall, that's it. That's my update for you. I have found auto mode to work very good for me, much better than manual mode. The CGM I found with this one, this is the new Guardian 3 CGM. I think the wireless capability is much stronger than the previous one. For example, when I shower in the morning, I take my pump off, even though it says waterproof. I still don't want to take it in there to be careful. On my previous Paradigm pump, the pump would lose the wireless connection with the sensor. So when I'd get out of the shower, oftentimes it would say lost sensor, and I'd have to go re-find the sensor again. It was just a pain in the butt. This one here, it's never lost the wireless sensor yet. So it's just got a better, more powerful, more stable connectivity between the pump and the sensor. The other thing that helps with is I rotate my sensor sights around my stomach, and if you happen to be wearing your pump on the right side of your belt and your sensor's way over here on the left, with my old one, sometimes I'd get a warning saying weak signal, which I guess maybe it's because I got a thick belly, I don't know. Anyway, on this new transmitter, I never get that. So it just seems to work a whole lot better. And that's about it. That's the update for now. Like and subscribe if you like these. I'll continue to give you updates as I go. But so far, it's working really, really well for me. I would encourage anybody that's a long-term diabetic to consider getting one of these pumps. Really, the 670G is a truly advanced, it's probably the closest thing that we'll ever have to an artificial pancreas. The fact that it can automatically adjust up and down in the background, you know, every 5 minutes. That's really quite amazing. Oh, and I also wrote down some lessons learned here. Just a minute. I want to make sure I cover those off. So lessons learned on manual. I already showed you the spikiness. I found it especially helpful to change my bolus habit. I didn't realize I was supposed to bolus 15 minutes before I ate until I was watching some other videos on YouTube, and this young girl was doing that, and I thought it was terrible that her family was making her sit there with an egg timer for 15 minutes till she could eat. But I talked to my diabetic nurse, and she said, yeah, you should be doing that. The latest intelligence is that if you bolus 15 minutes before you eat, then your pump and your body just has a much better chance of reacting to the meal that you eat. And I have seen that myself. Try to keep your meals between 25 and 50 carbs. Do your job at carb counting. I used to misbehave all the time. Sometimes I'd eat meals that were 70, 80, 90, 100 carbs. I mean, that's just too much, guys. You don't need that much. So make your meals smaller, eat more often, control your quantities. It's not so much what I eat, it's how much I eat. That's what I find. So if you just limit your quantities and eat smaller meals more frequently, every 2 to 3 hours, you'll find your blood sugars are much more in control. In auto mode, this is an interesting thing. Avoid changing your CGM sensor in the evening before you go to bed, or it's going to drive you nuts with alarms wanting you to constantly calibrate. Because when you put a new CGM on every 6 days, it's going to want you to calibrate every 3, 4, 5 hours, 2 or 3 times in a row. So if you change your CGM just before you go to bed, it's going to be constantly waking you up at night wanting to calibrate. After you've had it on for about a day, it seems to settle down, and it has a few more data points to go from, so it's working a lot better. And that's about it. Just let auto mode do its thing. It's tempting when your sugar's going up like mine is right now because I ate some cereal. It's tempting to give yourself a correction. I guess I could do that if I wanted to, but my diabetic nurse said for the first 4 or 5 weeks, just let your pump do its thing. Let it learn your body. Let it learn your particular body rhythms, how you react to the insulin, and it'll eventually get smarter and smarter because it's kind of a self-learning thing. Apparently every night at midnight, it looks at the previous day, looks at the previous patterns, and automatically tweaks some of its settings and parameters. So it is a self-learning kind of algorithm inside the pump. So just let it learn, let it do its thing. And if you still want to tweak things, then work with your endocrinologist to tweak things a bit. Anyway, I've talked enough. Hopefully this is helpful. I appreciate any comments you give me. And thanks very much. Talk to you later. Bye-bye.